name is Dominic Nahr and I'm a photographer, and I live in Zurich. I work with Leica cameras and I'm a staff photographer for the Neue Zürcher Zeitung in Switzerland. After the fall of Assad, I was in Syria after 2 days and covering the situation of the unknown. But as I was working over the several next months, I noticed that there was this focus on the minorities that didn't really know where they fit or if they could even exist in the state that was being rebuilt. This is sort of a project that looks at the minorities and how they fit inside this new system that is being created as we talk right now. There's many pictures that feel like they represent the different times of this new state. If you think about it, I mean, from the beginning where Assad left and sort of left this vacuum where nothing was functioning and nobody knew what was going to happen, people were very worried that things would actually get worse as the sort of Islamic jihadi kind of groups were coming down to Damascus. So there's a lot of pictures that show the development of the new state. But there's one photograph that just moved me a lot. It's a woman with her young girl standing next to an operation room, sort of crying as her husband's inside being operated on. We finally made it to Sweda, which is sort of the stronghold of the Druze after heavy fighting. And I just saw her in the corner crying, and it was just one of those pictures that represented the sadness that was being carried by all the people in that area during those violent times. I grew up in Hong Kong. Even though I'm Swiss, I grew up in Hong Kong, and my father's best friends were all sort of adventurers or slightly crazy people. And some of them were old war photographers who had covered the Vietnam War, as well as the wars in Lebanon and other crisis areas. And so I started hanging out with them, and they saw my photographs, asked me if I was good in school, and I said, no, I'm not good in school. And they're like, great, you'll be a photographer. So really, they chose my path quite early on. I was also fascinated with this idea of capturing history as it was evolving or changing, to be there at that moment when history rewrites itself. Specifically like in Syria, where you're there at that moment and things are changing completely. To be there, that's kind of something that pulls me to these places. But definitely I was lucky that my first mentors were old Vietnam War photographers. I think wars don't change, even though the way wars are being fought is changing quite drastically, especially with the drone warfare, which is hitting civilians and making our job a lot harder to get to places or a lot more dangerous. The wars are sort of all the same because you're moving in such a pure space. And although war is very dark and there's so much horror that comes with it, there's also a lot of hope and fight to survive that you find in people. So there's this balance that, yes, it is terrible, but I've found the most powerful people or the most brave and confident people who believe in fighting for their lives and the lives of their children. You're so aware of what's around you and what's important to you that all the other noise doesn't matter anymore. And so there's that two-sided. I mean, there's always this balance that you have. And yes, there's this horror, but also this hope in humanity. In terms of my work, I think in the beginning when I was younger, especially in my early 20s, I kind of just went to places naive and confident that everything would be okay. And luckily things were sort of okay most of the time. Now I'm much more careful. I think things through much better. Although I think my sense of risk has increased because I've worked so much in these conflict zones, which could be dangerous as well because you get used to things, especially working in Ukraine or in Syria. You get into situations where you think it's okay because you've done them so many times. But suddenly, like in Syria, you're standing right in front of a prisoner of war. And then suddenly he gets executed in front of you. You know, those are scenes that are so unbelievably intense that they still kind of get to you. And then you just have to work through that again. I was on holiday when the Syria crisis happened, and I went from the holiday straight to Damascus via Beirut. But in holiday, also always carry all my stuff. So I had an M11 with me and a Q43. That Q343 was new to me, so I was quite kind of not accustomed to it yet. But most of it actually was shot with that camera because it's so easy to use. And since then, actually all the trips back have been the Q343. That first trip sort of really held that camera as my main camera now. So since that first trip in Syria, the Q343 has become the main camera, which is kind of surprising to me. I didn't think I would replace my M11 for so long now. But yeah, it's happened.